These are 5 movies.
Daniel, where's the boat?
It's a good question.
4 are horror movies. One's just at McDonald's, but all 5
I was doing what I thought was the right thing.
actually
You're not guilty of substance. Do not give in.
happened. I think when you find out that a movie is based on a true story, you want to watch it just a little bit more because whatever happened in that film, it's because of these main reasons. It was either caused by some pure human behavior, pure stupidity, or messing with forces you know damn well you should not be messing with, but you still do it. Why is that? Why? The movies that I'm going to be talking about today, they made me kind of sad. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Some of these are really scary. Also just unbelievable to a point of like, what? Like most of them come from backstories you just would have not expected whatsoever. So here are some movies that I watched based on true stories. Okay, so we're just gonna jump right into it. I don't have my glasses today, but that's okay. Have my iPad with my notes. I made myself an iced coffee. Hold on. This is my second coffee today. First one I made, it messed with my stomach. I kind of changed some things, so hopefully that does not happen again. This is a movie that I actually covered on my TikTok, so I'm not going to go fully into it, but this is going to be about The Lovely Bones. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I did not know anything about this movie. I think I tried to watch it multiple times, but I just could not do it because that movie deals with probably my least favorite genre of movie. The concept of dealing with the loss, the violent loss at that, of someone powerless, or like dog movies or slave movies. Y'all get my drift. So Alice Sebold, who's known for writing The Lovely Bones, one of the best books that deal with loss, on May 8th, 1981, Sebold was a freshman at Syracuse University, and she was attacked while she was walking through Thornton Park in Syracuse. On October 5th, 1981, she claimed to have seen the man who attacked her while she was out. At the time, he was talking to a police officer that he knew, and she said, this is what she said, not me.
Hey girl, do I know you from somewhere?
The man that said this is Anthony Broadwater. Now, during the actual police lineup, Sebold did not initially choose Broadwater. He pointed to a totally different man. And the thing that makes this really aggravating is back in the 1980s, obviously racism was a thing. The fact that you just randomly chose a man. Are y'all seeing where I'm seeing with this? Anyways, yeah, it's just crazy how like none of it lined up. Nobody had like any questions like, ciao. Anyways, Sebold later wrote that she had been scared and confused during the process and torn between 2 different men in the lineup. And the prosecutor told her that it was only natural that she make such a mistake. Y'all see what I just said 10 seconds ago, right? Just randomly chose a man. Are y'all seeing where I'm seeing with this? Anyways, literally 10 seconds ago before. You cannot make this up. Like, you can't. Very PR. It was giving very PR. Like, it's not her fault. It's not her fault. So despite the failed lineup ID situation, Broadwater was prosecuted based on Sebold's courtroom identification and microscopic hair analysis, a forensic method later discredited by the FBI because it's not very accurate whatsoever. Keep this in mind because it's going to come back up. He was convicted in 1982 and sentenced to 8 to 25 years in jail. He spent more than 16 years in prison and he was denied parole at least 5 times. At least, keep in mind, he was denied parole, spent half of his life in jail. And you guys want to know why he was denied parole? Because he refused to admit to a crime he did not do. He also passed 2 separate lie detector tests. So if you guys are getting where I'm getting, it's like not adding up. It's not adding up. Like decades later in 2019, Sebold's memoir, Lucky, is supposed to be made into a film adaptation. The executive producer of the film, Timothy Muchante, was doing some research on the film and trying to prepare some things and kind of came across some very alarming and discrepancies in regards to the trial. Not the attack itself, but just the legal process of it all. Ended up leaving the project because of this and hired a private investigator to look a little bit deeper into the situation. And lo and behold, here we are, November 2020 freaking one. A New York Supreme Court justice officially exonerated Broadwater of all of his charges after 16 long freaking years, ruling that there had been serious issues with the original conviction. Anybody could have told y'all that. I'm sorry, anybody. Broadwater broke down in tears when the judge announced his decision. The district attorney, who helped prosecute decades earlier, stood in court and said that he wouldn't insult the moment by simply apologizing because it shouldn't have happened in the first place. But you were a part of the decision, I'm pretty sure. All of this obviously falls back on Alice Sebold. Sebold, on the other hand, broke down crying and was being very emotional about the situation. And honestly, I just don't take it for one bit. Girl, you literally, it was just very performative in my opinion. She did end up giving a public apology, and her memoir Lucky was taken down from all shelves. If you ever get your hands on a copy of that memoir, you just lucky. I just realized what I did there. No, like, I'm being so serious because it's like nowhere to be found. Broadwater spent 16 years in prison for a crime he did not commit, and in a case that became the emotional backbone of one of the best-selling novels of the 2000s. And to this day, Sebold's real attacker was never found. The second movie that I also talked about on my TikTok, Open Water, I watched this movie years back, and finding out that it was based on a true story is reasons why I just keep the ocean away from me. Keep it away. This movie came out in 2003. It is an independent survival horror film based on the disappearance of Tom and Aline Lonergan. This is a really good, thrilling movie. You like a tragedy type ending? I really do think that this inspired a lot of films, like that one movie that Blake Lively starred in. What was that called? The Shallows. Very like survival in the middle of the water. It's you, me, and the sharks, baby. Like, I forgot the name of that phobia. I think I have, first off, I have megalophobia. So just being in the ocean itself, like that's a lot. That's a lot for my brain to process. But I do think that what the Lonergans went through was way worse. Like way worse than like anyone's biggest fear. Tom and Aline Lonergan. They were a married couple from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and they both graduated from Louisiana State University, where they met and they actually got married in 1988. They had just completed a 2-year tour with the Peace Corps before this trip. Were described as very experienced divers, so they were very much used to the water. It was their livelihood. On January 25th, 1998, they went out with a group aboard the MV Outer Edge to dive St. Crispin's Reef, which is a part of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. In the movie, Daniel and Susan, they represent the real couple. They're in a different location than where the actual couple was. The thing is in the Atlantic, and it was actually filmed in many different areas. So here they are on this excursion. They are with a tourist group. They are exploring the ocean, looking around, enjoying what it has to bring to them. And it's time to go. This is where things get kind of crazy. This is where things kind of aggravate me. Human error is really at play here. Before the boat left, the boat crew did a head count of how many people they have leaving. The same thing they did when they were arriving. They miscounted. I'm pretty sure if 2 human bodies are not in the same vicinity where they need to be, I'm going to notice. Do you guys want to know how many times they miscounted? How many times they counted in general? I'm going to give you guys a second. Okay, did you guess 1? No, because these people were obviously not paying attention the first time. They miscounted twice. Some reports say that they miscounted because 2 people went back into the water after they counted and it messed up the tally. Whatever the exact cause was, Lonergans were nowhere to be found. Nobody on board, not even the passengers, not the boat crew, realized that they were gone for 2 days. I don't know what it is with the theme of noticing the people that you left with are nowhere to be seen, but it's starting to scare me. This happened back in the early 2000s. I don't care. Yeah, it's giving selfish considering the fact that also you guys are tourists at the same time. When you arrive with the same people. When you leave, you leave with the same people at the same time. Okay, there's no in between. It wasn't until the crew found a bag on board with their personal belongings, with their wallets, their passports. That's when the alarm bells went off and they were like, oh, yeah, oh my gosh. But by then, 2 days had passed. Once it was reported, a mass search began. Air, sea rescue, the Navy, civilian vessels. Sadly, nobody was found. Now, in the movie, it is a little bit different. There was more urgency with getting the people or finding them. But in the film, the disappearance, it was reported the next morning. A much faster, less damning response than what actually happened. Divers carry these things called slates to write messages and leave them underwater. So 6 months after the disappearance, a weathered dive slate washed ashore along with their gear. The slate read, "Anyone who can help us. We have been abandoned on Agincourt Reef by MV Outer Edge. 25th of January 1998, 3 p.m. Please help to rescue us before we die." So this confirms that they were alive at least a full day after being left. Now, in the film, the couple dies because of a shark attack. And that is one of the real life theories that people have suspected. But here are the main ones. So the first theory is the craziest, the murder suicide slash suicide pact. So after the disappearance, Lonergan's diaries were surfaced and it kind of showed some pretty disturbing things. Both of them had written about being unhappy and wanting something different out of their lives. More so Aline. Tom, on the other hand, he was ready to go. He was ready to get out of here. So that fueled some speculation, but it was never taken seriously. And it was actually dismissed by his family and the coroner. Both Tom and Aline were teachers. They just felt like it wasn't for them. I personally don't think they would have written a slate if they didn't want to be found. You know what I mean? The second theory is sharks. In reality, there was no clear evidence of an animal attack. There wasn't any blood, but from what I seen, it didn't really have any aggressive sharks in that area. I did watch this one video, which I will link down below. I definitely recommend you guys watch. It kind of goes more into detail, but the area of Australia that they were in, the sharks weren't as vicious. Maybe some tiger sharks, but it just wasn't as like much of a chance that it would be. The third theory, which I think is the most ridiculous, is that they faked their deaths. Now I think we're getting into Netflix territory. I think you guys are trying to make this into a Netflix series. Kind of like a Gone Girl situation, but not Gone Girl situation. They got on another boat, changed their identities, and moved to a different country. That's the theory. Very easily debunked though. I mean, if they would have faked their deaths and, changed everything, none of their bank records show any sign of activity after, so that one is just easily debunked. Honestly, I just think it was just human error on both parts. I'm not blaming Tom and Aline either. We don't know their stories. We don't know, the backstory. But not being aware of your surroundings, not knowing when the boat is leaving, I don't know. I just would have felt a draft. Like, it got too quiet on the creek to not notice a boat is not there. And the people that own the boat company, you're not getting unleashed. I'm so sorry. You are very much at fault too. It's just really aggravating because it's situations like this that make people not want to trust other people with their lives. You know what I mean? Yeah, y'all get it. The disappearance did trigger a crisis of confidence in North Queensland's dive industry, and it led to way stricter mandatory safety regulations, including required headcount confirmation protocols. Thank you. In the end, the boat skipper was charged with manslaughter and he was found not guilty, but the diving company itself was fined and shut down after pleading guilty to negligence. Okay, so with this next film, I'm going to take it a little easy on. I will put a trigger warning, so if you are triggered by anything essay related, I'm going to put a timestamp on the screen to go to the next film. So Compliance is probably my least favorite movie of all time. I think the movie really did its best at putting us in the actual space of the real life people that were involved in this, as well as the stressful situation itself. This movie came out in 2012 about a fast food worker who's accused of theft, who's put through a ringer of situations that are just heinous, all at the direction of a phone call from a random caller who says that he's a cop, subjecting her to increasingly harsh interrogation. The movie also sits at some mixed reviews on my letterbox, and for fair reason. But to touch on it, the case starts with April 9th of 2004. A McDonald's in Mount Washington, Kentucky received a call from a man identifying himself as Officer Scott. He spoke to the assistant manager, Donna Jean Summers, not our Donna Summers, let me state that very clear, and described a young female employee suspected of theft. Summers identified the 18-year-old Louise Ogborn, a former Girl Scout who had only been working there for like 4 months and took the job because her mom lost hers. The caller convinced Summers to strip search Ogborn in the back office since no officers were available to arrive. Summers bagged Ogborn's clothes and took them to her car as instructed. But when Summers needed to get back to the counter, she brought her fiance, out of all people, Walter Nix Jr., to watch Ogborn. While alone with her, the caller instructed Nix to, which he did. The entire 3.5 hour ordeal was captured on the restaurant's surveillance camera. Everything from beginning to the end was on tape. Now, in the movie, the restaurant becomes a fictional chain called Chick Witch. I'm sorry, off topic. That is the funniest name I've ever heard for a restaurant. And honestly, Chick-fil-A, count your days because they're coming for you. Every person in this film obviously gets a fake name. So in the movie, the caller is caught in a way that loosely mirrors the reality, but in real life, it's even worse. Stewart, the actual orchestrator behind dozens, and I mean dozens, you guys, of these hoaxes, ran this for roughly 70 incidents from 1999 to 2004. And he got to walk away freely from the situation, let me add. They say it's because they didn't have enough evidence on him. That sounds lazy. Like, be for real. The main thing I do take from this is the lack of accountability from the person who is truly responsible for all of this. Summers eventually tried to recruit a 58-year-old maintenance worker, Thomas Sims, to keep watch. But he had the common sense out of everybody in that freaking establishment, Chick Witch, and the balls to say, hey, this is wrong. And that is what finally broke down the deception of it all. Okay, I'm back. I had to go do some other things. I had to go live life, but I'm back. Last thing I was talking about is how things ended for the people in real life. Stewart, the actual mastermind behind the officer, was acquitted of everything, which I still think is very bogus, but whatever. No witnesses, there was nothing. Summers was fired and given probation, and she ended her engagement to Nix. I would have thought there would have been other signs that before this situation, but hey, two birds with one stone. Also, just trusting somebody that doesn't work at the establishment to handle your job. Girl, anyways, as for Ogborn, she later settled with McDonald's for $1.1 million after suing for far more, citing that the company's failure to warn the staff given the years that this has been going on. She also sadly gave up her plans to become a pre-med student because the trauma was so bad that she doesn't even feel comfortable being around people anymore. Now, I have to talk about this because this is kind of a crazy situation that goes into all of this, but the Sundance situation. Compliance premiered at Sundance in 2012 with a very heated response. Walkouts, accusations from the audience that made it seem like violence against women was entertaining. This was also a part of a broader indie movement that was going on, the real and ethical psychological experiments that have gone on previously. So there are two movies that also premiered at the same time as Compliance. The first movie is called Experimenter. I've never seen this before, but we should check it out sometime. And the Stanford Prison Experiments. So both of these films explored the same authority/manipulation themes, and Compliance was mostly rooted in an actual crime rather than a lab experiment as the other films were doing that. One thing that I will say this film and the real situation share, the core mechanics of manipulation. From the tasks that escalated too far, the manager's compliance and not having a backbone, and the bystanders that are just going along with this. There was a critic named Roger Ebert, and he noted that the walkouts weren't because the film was bad, just too effective at exposing human tendency to cave to authority. We're on to our next movie, and I've talked about so many movies today, so many. So many. This next movie is called Veronica, and let me just say how the lighting's giving, it's kind of giving spooky. It kind of fits the vibes. We're getting into the creepy horror stuff, like the actual horror. So Veronica is a 2017 horror drama about a teenage girl and her friends who are trying to summon the spirit of the girl's father using an Ouija board. During the session, she loses consciousness, and it soon becomes clear that something is coming to get her. Girl, you're being haunted. A lot of people call this the scariest movie of all time, and I very much agree. Like I have to agree. This is some creepy stuff. Also, it's a Spanish foreign film, and if you know, foreign horror is scary. Like it's something down there in that water. I don't know. It's just something about it. So this movie is based on the real case known as El Caso Vallecas. Estefana Gutierrez Lazaro, a teenage girl. If I butcher that, I'm so sorry. Sources say that her age ranged from 15 to 18. She takes part in a seance with an Ouija board at her school in 1990-1991. Her main goal of doing this was actually to contact a friend's boyfriend who had recently died in a motorcycle accident. Mid-session, the glass pointer starts moving on its own. But before things got too crazy, a nun comes in midway and breaks the Ouija board and stops the girls. The streets are saying that Estefana inhaled the smoke that came up from the shattered glass, and this was cited as the moment where things changed. I know this is none of my business, but I thought that when you use an Ouija board, you have to say goodbye when you're done with it, not break it. But hey, the nun knows more than I do. What followed may be one of the worst things ever. After the seance, Estefana began having insomnia, seizures, hallucinations, describing faceless, cloaked figures, visiting her at night, asking her to come with them. Her parents took her to multiple doctors trying to figure out what is going on. Nothing was ever medically found. In August of 1991, she confessed that the figures were beckoning her to join them. And within days, she died under still unexplained circumstances. This is some creepy stuff. This is why they tell you guys not to mess with them Ouija board. If you're not a paranormal ghost, do not touch them. So here is kind of where the true story and the movie differentiate from each other. So Veronica's decline and her death, it was actually very, very short. I think it was like 3 days, but in real life, her decline lasted almost 6 months to a year. In the film, if you guys have ever seen it, first couple clips, there was a police call that was made almost immediately. In reality, the family didn't get the police involved until a year after her passing. The police report that came from investigating after her death, which was where the hauntings kind of come in. And the other main difference is that in the movie, Veronica was using the seance to contact passing family member, but in real life, they were trying to contact a friend's boyfriend. Her family also says that the paranormal stuff didn't happen until actually after her death. Voices from empty rooms, doors bursting open, objects moving, temperature swings. And over a year later, in late 1992, the family was like, you know what? We're tired of this. This is getting a little bit too serious. Let's call the police. And the funny thing is that the police actually agreed with them. They were like, hey, y'all got some weird stuff going on in this house. There's nothing that we can do. Thanks for calling. But look, I appreciate the call. You got it. There were some other things that the film kept very factual. The smoke detail, the burning photograph moments. And one theory that pops up that this is really petty. Estefana's grandfather had some beef with Estefana's family. He did not like her family whatsoever. And it is reportedly stated that her grandfather whispered to her on his deathbed and said,
If I can't harm you in this life, I'll do it in the next. Thank you.
look, I'm just saying, if somebody threatened me or my family like that, look, count your days, okay, Buki? You're a ghost. But yeah, some crazy stuff happening with these ghosts. Okay, lastly, we're going to talk about one of my favorite movies of all time. It's great for the character development. Gaspar Noé's Climax. I had to save the best one for last because I feel like this is the movie that you guys are going to complain to me the most about. Out of every film I've talked about, this is probably the most artistic one and the most drawn out structure. There are so many shots in this movie that is just one shot. The camera just keeps running. It keeps running and keeps running and keeps running. So Climax is a 2018 film. It's also a French film, so add this to your list of foreign films you need to watch. It's set in 1996 and it follows a French dance troupe holding a days-long rehearsal in an abandoned school. On their final night of rehearsing, they're celebrating celebrating with a sangria punch. You know, the girls are giving, they're voguing, they're having fun. But it turns out that it was spiked, sending them into this dark, explosive nightmare as they try to survive the night and figure out who's responsible before it's too late. So this one is loosely based on a true story. An actual French dance troupe in 1996, whose sangria punch was unknowingly spiked with LSD at a celebratory after party following a rehearsal. That actually did happen, or so Gaspar Noé says it happened. And that's basically the entire real world basis of the film. And the thing that makes this film different from the other ones I talked about is that there's no real documentation of this real life event happening. No news reports, no police record, no named victims that have talked about it. The claim really is just based on Gaspar Noé's word. I wasn't joking when I said that. Look, if you guys can find something, please comment down below. Please show me. But multiple critics actually have flagged this directly, saying, yeah, Chief, I don't know about that. There was actually one review that notes that the film is based on a true story with no real evidence other than the director's work. Even more importantly, it's on Wikipedia, but its own account states plainly that in the real incident, no further incidents took place after the spiking. So unlike the film, where the night explodes into lots of crazy stuff in between here and there and up and down in the crevices. Child almost drinking sangria. First off, why is there a kid even there? You know what I mean? Like, I guess the cool thing about this is that Noé said that the idea came from being invited to a Vogue ballroom in the late 90s and being struck by the intensity of the dancers. He was also influenced by Rizet, David LaChapelle's documentary on crumping, which I thought was very interesting. He's described the film's real theme as a group of people creating something together and then collapsing, comparing it to the Tower of Babel. You guys don't know what the Tower of Babel is? Basically an original story from Genesis 11, 1-9, who tried to build a massive sky-reaching tower and make a name for themselves. He also said that the movie's not even about drugs at all. I guess it's just seemingly in there, but more so about the impact fear has on people once a group believes something that has gone wrong. It's kind of like birds of a feather flock together. If one person feels a certain way, the others will follow suit. There's no individuality. There's no, oh, this is me. No, this is us. A really cool detail aside from all the tragedy, the cast improvised almost everything. The dialogue, the characters' choices. It was really just based on the structures that Noé and Nina McNeely gave them, the choreographer. And I think that adds a really cool layer to the film as a whole, because imagine improvising like that. Like that's a skill. I don't want to spoil any part of the film, but I really do want you guys to watch the film and then come back and let me know how you feel about it. There are so many artistic situations. I think the whole purpose of it being in there is to make you think, what would you do? What would you do in that? Okay, you guys, those are all of the movies I had to share with you guys that are based on true stories. I have no words, honestly. I have no words. I don't. But it's really crazy how life imitates art. How a lot of these situations really pushing the limits with not only human behavior, but what we value as people. Because everyone has different values. And some people don't have values at all. Some people just don't care. Some people like to climb mountains, you know, swim with the fishes. Sometimes that needs to be valued. But if there's any other movies that you guys have seen that I need to watch that's based on a true story, comment down below. Also, if you guys watch any of the films that I mentioned, comment down below. Have a little conversation. Just a little conversation. Follow me on Letterboxd, as well as my TikTok and my Instagram. Y'all already know. Y'all know the deal. Y'all know the deal. Thank you guys for watching. Also, what should next week's topic be? What film should I watch? Let me know. Okay, I'm out.